Thank you for joining us today, and I just want to take a minute to introduce or it gives us an opportunity to dive in a little bit more about her and who our host is. I've had the pleasure to know her for years now, and she's an absolutely amazing person. Yeah, so she's an absolutely amazing entrepreneur, an amazing person, an amazing friend, an amazing daughter.
Aww. Stop.
So, oh, but you are. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad that we're able to kind of reverse the roles a little bit here, so you can share a little bit about some of the things that are going on right now. And I guess we'll kind of start with, you've had a lot of changes over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I just want to find out a little bit more about what your main focus is as an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Ooh, every time you say that word, I just started getting used to using that word. When I started in business, entrepreneur was not a cool word. So I'm just getting comfortable with it. So excuse me. But what I'm working on now, because that was 15 years ago. Well, okay, first off, right now I am honing my interview skills by doing a podcast with my friends called Industry Celebrities. Mm-hmm. And I decided that I needed to practice, and that was the only way I could practice was asking my friends that are in like all types of industries, but a lot of them are in the apartment business because that's where we come from. If I could just ask them a couple questions and interview them, because doing video interviewing, which is the industry I came from, is so different than audio and an interview of a conversational sort of interview, which is a podcast. Mm-hmm. So I've now, since the end of April, I've done over 30 interviews, and
wow.
Yeah, I know. When I look back, I was like, wow. They haven't all been edited and put out, but I've got 30 done. A lot of them already been distributed because I realized that practice makes perfect, and that I really wanted to do something as it related to dementia. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't quite sure until I went to this conference in May and saw Gary Vee at a VoiceCon, because mm-hmm. he's the one that was like, gotta do a podcast. I was like, jeez, how do I do this? And the light bulb went off, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to interview people that I don't know that are caring for a loved one with dementia. And the only way I feel someone who I don't know to trust me and for me to have credibility is to hone my skills, and that's what I'm doing with Industry Celebrities. So I don't know what the name of the podcast is going to be because I'm researching it right now. Everything seems to be taken when you use the word dementia. But I do know I want it to be the caregiver story, sharing with us to educate us, to even give the caregiver a little moment of relief in telling their story, as well as sharing solutions that they might have come across. Because what I realized when my mom was diagnosed in 2012 was that like everybody's dementia is different. Dementia is what our doctor told me is a dirty word for memory loss, and it's an umbrella that under that umbrella sits Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy bodies. There's a bigger word for it, but it has something to do with stroke victims get dementia, and alcoholics. So they all get some sort of dementia. My mom has early onset dementia, so that means she has no short-term memory. She's physically very healthy. She plays tennis 4 days a week, and she continues to want to drive. She just can't remember where her car is when she goes to the grocery store. She comes out of the grocery store, she's like, where's my car? Or why she went to the grocery store, or when to take her pills, or what did she do 30 minutes ago? You know, what the day is. Like that short term. Remember to brush your teeth, remember to wash your clothes, take a shower. You know, she remembers me. I talk to her every morning. So long story short, I learned a lot of things in the very first 2 years about finances, about how to track her, about, you know, what things to expect, you know, because she hides everything. Dementia patients do that, you know, which is also Alzheimer's, you know, they hide things, they become paranoid. So by having conversations with friends, I had about 5 friends back then that had already gone through this, their advice and their stories helped me figure out how I could take care of my mom long distance. So that's what I want to do. I want to be that vessel, that avenue of people to tell their stories about their struggles, their triumphs, everything, all of it, because nobody's dementia is the same, and every caregiver is going through a different experience.
So let's go back a little bit to your motivation and wanting to share these experiences with other caregivers in order to help them educate themselves more. Let's go back to the diagnosis of your mom in 2012. And what were some of the things that she saw, and how did you, as her daughter, how did you take the news, and what were your steps afterwards?
That's a great question. Are you trying to make me cry? No, just kidding. I do better now than I have in a long time. No, it's great. So it was actually a friend of hers came to me and said, we think there's something wrong with your mom. And we don't want to tell her, we don't want to insult her, but she's just not the same. She's kind of all over the place. And she had shown some signs of a few things with me when I had been home a couple different times, like, Mom, I already told you that, or just she withdrew money from the wrong account that was not her account, but it was my account. And I was like, why would you do that, Mom? Like I had to ask the banker, excuse me, but who withdrew this money? Because when I was here last summer, I had this much, and now there was zero. And the gentleman went and pulled the signing card, and it was my mom. And I was like, WTF, what? When I asked her, I said, Mom, why did you withdraw this money? If you needed money, I would have given you the money, but I was saving it for my niece's quinceañera. And now there was no money in there. And she's looking at me like, has no clue, doesn't even remember it. And so, wow. Without trying to make her feel bad, I was just like, okay, no problem. I was like, God, there's something going on here. And then her friends came to me and said, hey, we really feel like there's something going on. We want to sit down with you. And, we had a mini intervention. So we did. We sat down. There was 3 of her friends. And I sat down in November. No, it was October. And then was like, hey, Mom, let's go to the doctor. Everybody here's worried about you and blah, blah, blah. We went through the whole thing. And my mom just kept saying she was stressed, because, and she was. My brother had gotten sick that year. My grandfather had passed away. She had retired 2 years prior. So like stress pushes it out. Yeah, pushes, it comes to the head. And that's what happened. And so I told her, let's just go get tested. And we get tested. And if it's just stress, then I'll send you on a vacation. And she was like, okay. So we go, and the doctor asks her these questions. It was a series of lots of questions. And then they ran tests, and it came back that she had early onset dementia. It's very emotional for both of us. The dynamic switches immediately. For me, it did, because I was like, wow, this finances, everything was upside down. The house, like the sticky notes everywhere, there were just so many different things that I was like, whoa. So it took me about a year and a half to not cry when I spoke about it.
Understandable.
But immediately I put my big girl pants on and was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out, because she had no long-term plan. She retired from State Farm after 30 some plus years, had let her life insurance policy lapse because she forgot about it. Wow. She didn't have a plan. She didn't think, I don't need this. She was spending more money than she was making now that she's retired, and wasn't managing things like she used to. My mom ran ran our household. Like, she was the business woman. I get everything from her. And my dad says I get the smarts from her, which is not true, but from both sides. But the dynamic shifted. I had to become the parent, but I had to do it long distance, because she was like, you don't need to move home. I don't want you to do that. She was very proud when I left from home and stayed not away from home, but went out on my own and did my own thing. She made her very proud, because I'm raised an independent woman, so she would not allow me to come home. It was not an option to move her to me, because that's the worst thing you could do to a dementia patient or somebody with Alzheimer's, is change up their environment. And she has lots of friends there in El Paso. My grandmother now, my brother and his kids, and my stepdad. So it just wasn't an option. So I just started figuring things out remotely, and decided that I would just make this happen. And there were so many different things that I did that I won't go into, from getting a living trust, and getting power of attorney, almost immediately. She was fine with that, immediately. So we could get everything taken out of her name, because eventually, if she does have to go into a facility, which that would be I will have to be dead and dying before I put her in a facility. But we would need the income for her to be able to do that. So it's just, I want to share those stories and the struggles and meet and share other people's stories and struggles about it, because it can be overwhelming, and I want to build awareness so that people like you who have two beautiful children at, 11 and how old is Will?
8. So yeah. 10 and 8.
Yeah, like that there is a plan, because, from a life insurance policy to long-term care, like I don't even know all the definitions, but like if she'd had any of that, like, I mean, luckily she has a retirement and Social Security, but right now they're saying we won't have any Social Security. So, I'm happy that she does have income, but I supplement that income. So, it's just a
lot of things you don't think
of. Absolutely.
So each person's story is a little bit different, and you learn something from each one.
Yes.
Which is pretty amazing, sharing those stories.
Yeah. So doing the Industry Celebrities podcast, I feel will definitely get me to the point where eventually I will be able to have the courage to ask others that I do not know to allow me to interview them and just tell their story. I'm not quite sure. I'm not monetizing it. I don't care about that. I just care about sharing the message. I want to share the stories. I want to get it out there. I want people to understand they need a plan if they have children or if they don't. It doesn't matter. Cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, which dementia is
46.8 million worldwide are living with dementia.
Yes.
And then that it's going to double.
Yes, it'll double every 20 years. So by 2030, there will be 75 million people with dementia worldwide.
And then 131
in 2050.
That is absolutely
so that's
amazing.
Some form of, that's not, I mean, like, so that Alzheimer's part, like, you name it. So we're one out of every, I think the one stat I read, 1 out of every 3 people in the UK, or maybe it was the US, I don't know, but has dementia currently. So we just need a plan. Like, your kids, like, I don't want to use this word because my mother was the best mother in the world. She deserves to be taken care of. But it is a huge burden for anybody to do. It's take care of somebody. Yeah. So I take it on because that's just what I'm supposed to do. God gives you, I tell people all the time, God gives you children because they're going to the ones, you brought them into the world. They're going to be taking care of you when you go out. At least one of them will be. So you just need to plan so that you know what to expect and you can be at peace and not knowing that they're not struggling to take care of you.
It's an amazing thing that you're doing to use this medium to get the message out there and to show other caregivers and family members that there is support and the things that was trial and error for you.
2 years of a lot of tears and a lot of trial and error. Absolutely.
Yeah, and being able to share that there are solutions, there are answers, and there are things in the future for my children that I can do to set into place so that they don't have that burden and they're not trying to figure those things out for myself and my husband.
Yes.
So.
Actually, that's one of the biggest things that I could, like, I tell people all the time now, like, make a plan, make a plan. A friend of ours that we both know, she just took on the care of her mother in the past, well, not just in the past, like, year and a half or two. And when I talked to her the other day, asking her to interview, she said she'd be open to it. She wasn't quite sure yet because you got to be ready. But I gave her all this advice that she was like, because her mom likes to move and be outside. And so I explained to her how I accomplished the monitoring problem by putting a Life 360 on my mom's phone. So that I could.
Like I have on my children.
Yeah, so you can. Correct. It was made for teenagers, right? And this I used to monitor and make sure that she's not driving into Mexico or going in the wrong direction, or that's just one of the many things, and helping her find a caregiver to go through a home health agency or not, all those different things. Like, it's just, there's so many things, and so sharing that with her, like, really filled my heart because she was just like, thank you so much. I didn't know about these things. She's having to work, full time. Her and her husband are juggling it and they're figuring it out. But, like, her mom is living with her and she's making it work. But it is a huge stress.
Yeah, there's a lot of decisions and
yes,
a lot of things weighing on your shoulders constantly.
And when it's a parent-child dynamic, it becomes very difficult because you have to still... You don't want to boss them around. And another person in the apartment industry, she told me that every day is a new day and you got to leave them with their dignity. And so you don't say certain things to them, like, why don't you remember? You just repeat yourself 100 times, because that's what it takes. You just repeat yourself and repeat yourself, but you never say the words. I just told you, don't you remember? Mm-hmm. Why can't you remember? Like, they don't know.
Right.
You just have to repeat yourself, because that keeps their dignity. They're already scared enough as it is. Mm-hmm. You need to treat them with respect and dignity, because if you don't, that makes it worse on you both. Mm-hmm. Like, the caregiver feels bad and the person feels bad, and there's no reason to feel bad about it. You just do it, but you do it with respect and dignity.
Yeah. So, which they definitely deserve.
Absolutely. So, like, talking to her really opened my eyes that I'm on the right track. When I talked to our friend that had just, brought her mom in, moved in with her, it definitely opened my eyes, like, okay, I'm on the right track, because I just need to find more people to tell their stories. So
yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with this that would be open to having that conversation.
Hopefully.
And, to share their stories, as well as probably kind of with a healing process too.
Oh, absolutely. So. There's 8 stages of Alzheimer caregiver grief. Mm-hmm. The title might be different, but 8 stages you go through as a caregiver of someone with dementia Alzheimer's.
So when did you first recognize that there were the 8 stages? How far were you into it?
Well, I went to a group called Dawn's Friends that our friend Jan Villanueva, her and her mom started. Mm-hmm. And, I went to get educated. I thought I was going to be on the side of the patients and not on the caregiver side, but I went to the caregiver side, and the first day I learned that there was 8 stages that you're constantly going through.
And this was just recently,
Just recently. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. And so apparently it was happening at the moment, like, because I started just weeping, like guilt. Like, guilt's one of them. And so there's shock, denial, anger, grief, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. And that's actually 8, but they label it as 7.
So looking back now, can you recognize each one of those stages that you went through?
Yeah, but you're constantly going through them. You're always in one of those stages as a caregiver, always.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense when they said that to me, because I was like, that's why some days I'm bargaining, some days with her, like because I go to El Paso every month for about a week and talk to her every morning via the Alexa show. And some trips are harder than others. Some days are hard, but we're both going through something, and I'm going through one of the 8 all the time.
Yeah.
So, just that education process, I didn't even know about that, but because of Dawn's Friends, it was eye-opening, and they meet every Tuesday, the 1st and 4th Tuesday of every month at the Flower Mound Senior Center in Flower Mound.
Okay. Can they also find that information?
Yeah, they can find it on they have a Facebook page, or they can reach out to Jan Villanueva. The Flower Mound Senior Center has it listed. Mm-hmm. So it's at 10 o'clock every Tuesday, the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month. That is where I'm at these days, and I'm hoping to spread the word of awareness for caregivers of dementia and go from there.
Well, you're doing an absolutely amazing job.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you interviewing me today, Ms. Leah.
It's been fun.
Definitely. We'll have to come back and pick up where we left off on another day.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.